Hello, my traveling friends. It's the Tinker Mom back with more tips on how you can integrate teaching and learning into traveling with your children. And this is the second part of a series on traveling to Walt Disney World with your children. Today, I'm going to talk about how you can teach at Walt Disney World and give you tips on 3 specific lessons that you can teach at Magic Kingdom that focus on geography, American history, and literature. So, you may be asking yourself, what exactly can my children learn at Walt Disney World? It's a theme park, right? But yes, the answer is your children can learn a ton, and there are opportunities for teaching everywhere at Walt Disney World. Walt Disney World was not only an illustrator, artist, leader, but he was also first and foremost a storyteller. And if you look around Walt Disney World, there are stories everywhere. There's also an abundance of world cultures, American history, world history, literature, and a great array of topics that you can integrate into teaching lessons for your kids. So to start off, I have a lot of information that I'm not including in this video because I didn't want it to be really long, but you can find my full and complete travel logs on my Pinterest page, which is Tinker Mom Family Travel. That's Tinker Mom FT on Pinterest. And on my board, there's a full travel log that has all of the information I'm going to talk about today and additional information for you to plan your next trip to Walt Disney World with your kids. So the first and general tip that I want to give you is to journal at Walt Disney World. And I actually got this tip from my kids' teacher, but I expanded upon it a little bit by having them create a binder. And the night before we left on our trip, I had them create a cover for their binder. These are the kinds of plastic binders that you can get that have the slip pocket in the front. And you can see my son, who was 5 at the time, drew this great illustration of the castle with Mickey and Minnie in front, and we put that in there. We also inserted some plastic sleeves so that while we were traveling at the park, he could put his drawings in here. You can see Tom Sawyer Island and the mine train, and also different items that he was given or picked up at the parks. This is the bookmark that Belle gave him at Enchanted Tales with Belle. And you can see we also collected park maps as we walked through the park of all the different parks. So a great way to sort of keep all of their souvenirs together. And if they do any writing, my older daughter did a lot of writing. And we also had lined paper in her binder as well, so she could write journal entries about the things she did each day. So that's sort of a general tip. So let's get right into it. Now, there are lessons that you can do at every park, but today I'm going to focus on the Magic Kingdom and 3 lessons that you can teach at Magic Kingdom. The first lesson is the Jungle Cruise, and it's Rivers of the World. Now, the lesson plans that I'm going to give you are in 3 parts. They include an introduction, an experience, and a follow-up. And they really follow the type of lesson plans that a teacher would do for students in a classroom. So they really are really good lesson plans, and I hope you will too. Anyway, so the first one that I want to talk about is the Rivers of the World, and it uses the Jungle Cruise ride as the experience. So I did not know this, but as I started doing research, I found out that the Jungle Cruise ride was actually based on a television series that Disney did before Walt Disney World opened called Disney's True Life Adventure Series. And I'm going to post a link to one of the episodes on YouTube in the comments below so you can see that. And there's a number of episodes on YouTube, and they're really fun to watch. So I suggest as an introduction to this lesson, before you leave for your trip, you watch some of those episodes. And also maybe watch another nature documentary about river animals or world rivers. So when you get to Walt Disney World, you expand upon that with the experience of going on the Jungle Cruise. Now, obviously, as you're going on the Jungle Cruise, you're going to get into the line and you're going to be going onto a dock and getting into a boat. So as you're waiting in the line, just talk with your children about the rivers and ask them to pay special attention to the names of all of the different rivers that are represented on the ride, on the Jungle Cruise. Tell them that if they remember the names of all of the different rivers, they'll get a special treat when you get off the ride, and watch how much their memory will improve. When you get off the cruise, you can walk over and maybe get a Dole Whip float, and you can talk about the different rivers that you just explored. Ask them why they think rivers are important and what animals they saw along the river and why they think so many animals live in and around the river and why that would be. So that's the Jungle Cruise in our first lesson. For our second lesson, you're going to wander on over to Liberty Square. And you're going to intro this lesson by reading the book written in 1944 by Esther Forbes called Johnny Tremain. It's a Newbery Award-winning book, and Disney actually made a film version of the book in the 1950s, which is a great movie. And so you can watch the movie and read the book, or just read the book, or just watch the movie, or do both. And either have your children read it or read it with them. It basically is an outline of the early days of the American Revolution, really the gearing up to the American Revolution in Boston, Massachusetts, as seen through the eyes of a boy, Johnny Tremain, and introduces some actual historic characters like Paul Revere. And it's a great way to introduce your kids to how the American Revolution was started in Boston. When you get to Liberty Square in Disney World, ask your children to find the Liberty Tree and the hanging lanterns that are hanging from the Liberty Tree. There's usually a number of cast members in that area, so have your children talk to one of the cast members and ask them about the lanterns and what they symbolize. There's a lot of symbolism in that tree, and they'll learn about that. Then wander across to the Hall of Presidents and watch the performance there, the whatever it is show with all the different presidents, and have your children take note of how many different presidents we've had since the founding of our country. As a follow-up to this activity, go ahead over to Epcot either the next day or later that afternoon if you have park hopper tickets, and go to the American Experience and watch the show there. It's incredible. I mean, the Hall of Presidents I love, but the American Experience just brings me to tears almost every time I see it. It makes me so proud to be an American. And after you watch that, check the schedule and see a performance by the Voices of Liberty singing group. They are just wonderful. And have your children then draw a picture that evening or follow up with a journal entry about their experience. The third and final lesson that we are going to talk about today is Tom Sawyer's Island. This is a literature lesson. As an introduction, I actually sort of struggled with this, how to introduce this. I knew I wanted to do something on Tom Sawyer, but honestly, I know that the book Tom Sawyer is a classic, but I find it very challenging. I find the language challenging, and there are subjects in Tom Sawyer that, although very important, are sort of challenging to introduce to young children. So, and I also have not found a film version of Tom Sawyer that I love. I've seen a couple. So maybe if you know of one that you love, you can make a note in it in the comments below, because I'd love to check it out. I'd actually love to find a film version of Tom Sawyer that I would love to show my kids. So the way that I introduce this lesson is just by talking about the character of Tom Sawyer. I told my children that Tom Sawyer is a boy and he goes on an adventure, and that we are going to go to Tom Sawyer's Island and we are going to write our own adventure story. So we took the raft out to Tom Sawyer's Island, which in itself is a really special experience. And when you get there, just let your children guide you around the island. Go into the cave, go into the mine, especially spend time in the old fort. And look around and find the secret passage that goes through the tunnel, the secret exit out of the fort. That's really special and fun for children to discover. And then as you go through, write your story, write an adventure story, make it up. What's happening? Are they running away from someone? Are they looking for something or someone? And make your own story. As a follow-up, you can really take it as far as you want to, depending on how into it your kids are and what ages they are. We did two different things as a follow up. My son chose to draw a map of the island and to label all of the different parts of the island. And with the map, he was able to retell where we went and what we did, and retell the story that we made up by pointing to the map. My daughter, who's more of a writer, actually wrote out her story in her journal. And so they chose two different ways to follow up on that. You can also take pictures on your phone as you go through the island and even make a picture book with the pictures and write your story, or do it on something like Shutterfly where you can actually create a picture book and write your own story. So lots of fun ways that you can teach at Walt Disney World. And just as a side note, you're going to be learning about rivers on the river cruise. Follow up with your children is what river is represented at Walt Disney World that is not included on the Jungle Cruise, and that is the mighty Mississippi River. And you can take a riverboat ride just as you leave Tom Sawyer Island. Just walk across the way and jump on the riverboat and go on a river cruise and pretend that you're on the Mississippi River and you go around Tom Sawyer Island. And you can relax a little bit and think about all of your great experiences that you had. And then when you get off, you're right next to the Haunted Mansion. So how perfect is that? You can just go on the Haunted Mansion and have fun. So that's all for today. Please be sure to check out my notes and travel logs on my Pinterest page. And until next time, I wish you a great day and magical travels and best wishes.